Hello, good to see you again. Thanks for coming back to really pour into yourself. My name is Sophia Jahan, and I am celebrating 11 years at Microsoft. And it's true, especially now as a mom of three that will be turning, the twins will be turning 5 in August, and Zia will be turning 3 in September. Yeah, the days are long, the years are short, is very true. Same with work, especially in the tech space, especially in this era of AI. But let's jump into some content for today. So, today I want to talk about the mental shift that has to occur when you decide that you want to become a manager. And specifically, if you are becoming a manager in a functional area that you have been in before, like myself, I was an account director on a large strategic ISV for Microsoft before I jumped into a manager role, managing our majors accounts. I've managed our large enterprise accounts. I've large strategic accounts. I've managed account directors that have led those accounts. I've managed managers that have led those teams that manage strategic accounts across the United States for our ISV and high tech and software and digital platforms portfolio. And there's a few lessons that stand out if I, really take some time to step back and think about what that experience taught me. And a lot of it is a larger shift in how you show up as a leader, how you have to give space to your team to lead. One piece of advice that I've always loved and is set with me is that you hire great people. When you hire great people, you can get out of their way and let them do great things. You set up the framework, you give them the right tools, and you give them space, because just because you did something a certain way to achieve success does not mean that everybody else on your team is going to do the exact same thing to achieve success. And once you understand that, I know once I understood that, it helped me show up as a much more empathetic leader, as a much more thoughtful leader. It has helped me show up as a better peer, because I lead a team that has a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, more experience in some ways than I do. And I definitely am humbled and grateful to learn from them as well. And I definitely think of this as a team sport, and we are greater as a whole than as an individual when we make space to understand that there is something unique inside each of us, especially at this level. If you get to that director level at a company, that someone has seen within you. And I really try to give people an opportunity to shine that light on what makes them excited to get up every single day and bring their best to work, bring their best to their customers, bring their best to their partners. So, with that, and the framework for this episode is how I moved from individual contributor, coming in through Microsoft Aspire MBA program as an individual contributor that had sales experience, I had global sales experience, coming into Microsoft, working at Citi, working in financial services, for a few years in Manhattan, and then for a few years in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and then went back to get my MBA, switched it up, dove into tech, and then knocked the socks off of an individual contributor role where I was able to show up and lead strategy for some of the most competitive accounts in Microsoft's portfolio that I like to call some of our frenemies, because we play and partner and compete together, which I think sharpens iron is definitely something that sticks with me. And giving more opportunity, diversity to the market is always a great thing. So with that, and in this episode, I wanted to explore a little bit about what this career shift has meant. And I'm trying to give nuggets that have helped shape me into the leader that I am today. What is the actual mental shift from individual contributor to director level work to VP level work? Specifically for me, as I think through my career trajectory and becoming from individual contributor to account director to leading other account directors to leading team leaders that are directors that are leading other teams as well, and essentially stepping into that general manager role. And one thing that I really recognized early on is that just because you can do the job, and this is professionally and personally, does not mean you should do the job. And there's a lot of things that you can do, but to really cultivate a strong team, a team that thrives, a team that grows, a team that inspires and aspires, you have to give your team the space to take up space, to be creative, to be bold, to go and advocate. And then where they need that extra step to keep advocating, that's when you step in. So I would say the first thing is, as you continue to grow in your career, become more senior, you have to be comfortable with giving space. You have to be comfortable with silence. You have to be comfortable with asking more questions versus giving more answers. And this can be tough for a lot of us that are know-it-alls, chatty word boxes, Like, you have the right answer, you're just itching, you gotta let it go. It's like, actually, do you? Like, is it the right time to come and step in, overstep? You really have to access every single person on your team, every single person that you are giving an opportunity to grow in your space, and determine, what does this person need to know to fully thrive, to be a successful contributor? What does that person need to know to be a successful contributor to the business, to be a successful contributor to our partners? And so, again, that mental shift one is really being comfortable with space and with silence. And you can do that when you hire the right people, and hiring is such an important skill. Talent management, talent acquisition is key as you continue to grow in your career. And then the other question is, some people have asked is, what do you stop doing and what do you start doing instead? So one thing that to stop doing is sometimes like getting in the minutia can sometimes looks like you're getting back into your comfort zone, like all the things you used to do that got you to this level. But what you have to recognize is this level of success that is amazing that you're at, to get to the next level, you probably can't do the exact same thing. Some of those patterns, some of those frameworks are helpful, but to really thrive and get into the next level, you have to take a step back, do some personal inventory on how you lead, how you show up, and take note of leaders that you are inspired by and how they show up, how they manage their team, how they give space, how they create agency. And one thing that I had to start doing more of, and I recognized this as I was getting different kinds of questions as I was leading a larger portfolio of customers, or my team was, is really taking a macro step back and thinking about the industry I love, trends that I was recognizing from the industry, from this particular customer segment, from our competitive segment and how we're going to market. And those are very unique and distinct insights versus having an in-point conversation about a deal, point-to-point conversation about a negotiation, and it's been tough, but it's been amazing because it's a totally different skill set. And that unlocking that skill set and how to really be key to think about themes on an industry, themes about the market, puts you into different rooms. AI definitely helps me level up in this kind of framework. I shared in another post about how I was using Microsoft Scout, which is our autopilot tool, but really you can use Microsoft Scout, you can use Copilot, Cowork. Any of these tools are really great thought partners, thinking partners, can help you deliver expertise and insights around how you benchmark your industry, how you think about trends all up that are moving the space. It helps me think through thoughtful questions that may come up that I can give a response to. Helps me think through kind of a paradigm or a shift that I'm like, how am I feeling these things in the market? I try to, before I lose the context, if I go to a conference, I try to just I love a good voice to text or just voice to audio memo. And all of our great tools do that. They actually said that's one of my favorite things. And I picked that up as a mom because my hands were busy with the twins and doing all the things. I'm like, I don't have all the time to text. And I'm like major texter. Like if there was a championship for my texting skills, I'd be up here. So I had to release that passion I had for my Mavis speaking, typing expertise that transferred over to how quickly I used to text to voice notes, because I can quickly get those things out. I don't lose some of the context, some of the emotion. I don't have to wait until I stop driving. I can get those things done in motion and flex. Macro point is that I love the voice piece because I can share exactly what's top of mind in these voice notes and create this running dialogue that helps me think through trends and insights that I've been seeing in the industry with my customer segment over time. And again, as you become more senior, leaders are asking you about those larger trends because they're not just looking out for the next quarter, for the next year. They're thinking 3, 5, 10 years out on how the market's going to move. Now, look, in this space, in this industry, you don't have a crystal ball for that. You really don't. But can you make some educated guesses based off of history, based off of what you're seeing in the market, taking a macro view? Yes, you can. And those are the kind of bold bets that you want to be taking the time to make space for, again, and get out of the minutia. You got to this level because you know how to get the job done. But again, to get from here to here, you have to think differently about how you can expand your scope, scale your knowledge, and really elevate the conversation. And transparency, that's one thing that I'm continuing to push myself on as well. It is an art more than a science. I use the science, the AI to help me with it, but the art is the nuance in the room. It's the empathy. It's the human piece of these uncomfortable conversations and this unique shift in our market and how we're thinking about capability, how we're thinking about talent management, asset management. It's an incredibly exciting time. It's an incredibly can be fear-inducing time for a lot of people. And the ones that will thrive into these leadership roles as the market continues to shift will be the ones that can utilize amazing tools, amazing thought partners, and also dial into that empathy, tap into that nuance that they can read in the room because AI can't read the room and AI does not have your lived experience. So, how can you trickle in that lived experience, those lived conversations you can have leader to leader in the rooms, thinking through these patterns, and how can you share those trends at a micro level? So, again, that's the mental shift that I really have seen as you continue to grow into these director level and higher positions and opportunities. Themes that I am definitely mindful of and watching right now is one is around talent management and this kind of inverted triangle that I continue to see a shift on just in even this past year and how we think through talent management and where investments are going into senior talent. And a key one is this heavy shift across the industry on okay, we all know AI is changing the way we work, it's changing the way we show up. How do we do a better job of pushing the needle on the ROI? And the best way to do it is to have boots on the ground. Actually, cue boots on the ground as the music right now because everybody talking about their forward deployed engineer and FDE. And you could see this trend coming because everybody wants to know this customer zero story. Okay, yes, I'm doing X, but how do I make Y happen on the ground? How do I actually deliver results past just toying around with some of these things? How does it change how I deliver impact to my business? And that takes time, that takes insight, that takes patience, that takes asking the right questions. And those are not one off conversations. So, this shift on, again, one on talent, just like where are we putting our talent dollars on coming through the funnel of our most junior talent all the way to senior talent. And what does that shift look like depending upon what functional area you sit in? And then what new opportunities does that make for your space as that funnel continues to shift and every industry and function is shifting. So make sure you pay attention to that. And then two, again, this specific execution arm that's coming in to help you think through, okay, now we've made this investment. We've made these investment in these tools on AI and how it's going to change our business. But like, who is owning this strategy? Who is owning the final ROI that we're trying to produce back to the business, to our shareholders, to our board of directors? They've all said, yes, great. Now you've bought this, but like, what does it actually mean? So very keen on looking at this shift over the next year on how companies decide to go to market and to embrace more of these forward deployed engineers into their own teams and think about how it enables the results that they share with their end customers and with their shareholders. Obviously, the other industry thing that I'm definitely mindful of too is, and this is more of a macro one just because I love education, an incredible woman put up a post about this too, and she was just talking about how AI specifically is pushing the needle and thread, and this has been happening for quite some time, but it's just accelerated the pathway on higher education. And it's a larger theme on like these high price ticketed items, and with the ubiquitous nature and how some of these things are now premium priced or low cost to entry, how you attain knowledge, like what that is going to push the needle on our education system. And it already is. And I'm very mindful of like what is the ripple effect of that as we think through how we prepare the next generation to come into the workforce. Management acquisition is definitely something that is key and top of mind for any senior leader as you're thinking through planning for your workforce, planning for the workforce of the future. And I am definitely, when I'm thinking about talent management, I am thinking about the workforce of the future. How do I set up a team? How do I set up a framework for people to be successful, to bring their best selves to work, to bring their best selves to the customers, to feel comfortable experimenting, iterating, growing, knowing that everything they once did really is shaking under them and becoming a new way of work and also a new business model for a lot of our customers. So the way I think about it is, we have a high focus on this high performance culture. And essentially it just means like we have a high bar for talent and we expect a lot from our people. There's a lot at our fingertips, my fingertips, and how we take advantage of that. The how piece is really important. So when I'm thinking about talent management, I'm thinking about the how, and that, like, how do you deal with uncertainty? How do you deal with complexity? How do you like to learn? How do you handle difficult conversations? How do you challenge yourself to think outside the box? How do you challenge your customers to think outside of the box? It's that, again, it's the added nuance and framework on all of the great AI that's at your fingertips, but how do you take it to the next level, and how you collaborate and how you execute, and how you read market signals to better feed those back into your organization as they think through how we're going to plan and think through how we execute and bring more value to our end customer. So again, when I'm thinking about talent planning for my org and building out my bench, which any good leader should be continuously building out their bench. Any good leader should have an ongoing bench that they're building, having ongoing talent conversations. I love when people reach out to me and said, I remember I talked about this with you X, Y, and Z years ago. These are some things that that stood out to me about how you lead, and I would love to work for your team. Like, that's the biggest, like, one of the biggest things that I'm super proud of in my professional career, that people are proud to be in a space that hopefully I give, proud to be in a space that I give to help other leaders grow and thrive and bring their best selves to work. Seems like so many people tap out at the director level, which is already so hard to get to. I'm like, why are so many people tapping out here? And I will say that this is the real art of knowing the room, those offline conversations you have with leadership, with your sponsors, really having people have your back and who can assess your talent and also what you can bring to the org. And that belief in you that's really key to getting to the next level. It's really easy. And look, every org needs some workers to just like get the job done, but the few that are going to continue to climb the corporate ladder, they are having different conversations. Leaders are taking bets on them and are breaking the mold on what it quote unquote takes to go to the next level, how many steps it takes. And the people that do that, they have some unique abilities. And I will say that the reality is that as much as COVID and like working in tech, you do have a lot of flexibility in where you work. Being in proximity to the sources of power, I would say the sources of leadership, really makes a huge difference, especially early on as you're trying to create your network, you're trying to create obviously your board of directors, your advocates. Like, it's very crucial to be close to the center. It's one thing to read about how you deliver it. It's another thing to see you in action and in motion, and how you deliver, how you lead, how you think through pushing your team and your org to the next level. All of those nuances make a huge difference, in having someone be able to see it in person, hear direct feedback from customers about how you deliver and how much value you bring to their teams. Like, that's golden. And you can't get that for not being in the rooms with the right people at the right time. It genuinely changes how I think about the future of my team, and that you can create all of these amazing tools to be more nimble, to think more analytically. I would say the genuine change that I've seen is the people that are thriving are the ones that are not afraid to make mistakes. They're building out loud. They're creating a change agency within the organization around building and testing, and taking off any old mindset that, like, I have to be an engineer or I have to have X, Y, and Z pedigree in order to do X, Y, and Z action or activity. It's like, look, no, like, we're leveling the playing field with some of these tools, and those that dive in and embrace them, those are the ones, when I think about my team and teams that I continue to see lead and thrive, they have that differentiator in them. AI proficiency for leaders in 2026 comes down to 5 things: translating AI use cases into business outcomes, redesigning workflows around AI rather than bolting it on. So teams are really starting from scratch and say, like, hey, if we had to do this whole workflow again, not just like bolt it on and change one step, how would we redesign this entire process with co-work at the middle of it? Judgment about data and models, right? Around security, around governance is really key. Governing risk, and leading the talent and the change side of adoption. That talent and change side of adoption is really key as well. That's definitely what senior thoughtful leaders are thinking about, those caveats, those buckets. There was some Harvard Business School research as well that came out that found that as executives rise into their C-suite, their social skills, not the technical ones, are the ones that become the decisive differentiator, which is interesting because there's a lot of other top AI companies out here talking about the power of those liberal arts degrees. And I think, again, it keys in on that social aspect, those social skills that really do differentiate the types of conversations, the types of questions, the types of genuine curiosity, but also like, what's going on? I don't just have to accept everything you're saying because I do have my own thoughts as well into the room. And that's key. And we need those kind of thought leaders in the room right now. So, yes, technical skills are amazing, but having those social skills to ask those dynamic questions as well really are key in this market. So, again, it's not just the technical chops that gets you promoted, it's how you maneuver between the rooms, these senior rooms, that gets you promoted, that gets you to have those new conversations. And then another research article came out that said the most senior AI era leaders are the ones who think beyond their own function, adapt business models quickly, and get ahead of disruption before it hits. So I would say, again, like, macro point is that the people that are thriving in this space are not afraid to voice new ideas and to get ahead of new business models. You just can't kind of like not be afraid to break your existing ones that have brought you success so far. And I would say that, just macro, I listened, one of my favorite podcasts is Pivot, and there's a conversation on there around just leaders, and Kara Swisher was going back into a conversation I think she was having with Brene Brown, and how some exec leaders are, backsliding because of how fast AI is moving into this safe and certain leadership style, when what actually works is leaning into the uncomfortability right now. And I get it because it's easy to go back to what you already know. It's like it's fast, leaning into the uncomfortable, the challenging. It takes time, it takes maneuvering, it takes like, does this really move the needle? It takes a lot of work. But if you default to the default, those leaders, yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation come around. Like, let's have the same conversation in a year, not even a year, in 6 months, and see what those leaders are that have shifted back into safe and certain. Yeah, stepping into strategy, not just execution. The through line here is that you have to step into strategy at this level. You have to step into strategy and not just execution. The execution will come through your team, it will come through the framework and the process that you deliver your team, right? I always talk to my team. Your job is to provide clarity, generate energy, and execute. The strategy, the up leveling, that's what you want to put your mental space in as you continue to grow the business, grow yourself in the business as well. With that, it's been great chit chatting about how I have grown myself from an individual contributor to managing director to general manager roles, and have seen a lot of nuance in how I myself have changed how I lead and the kind of conversations I want to bring to the table, and how I will see myself continuing to want to grow. Share below some nuggets that you have learned along the way as you continue to grow into manager roles yourself, into different manager and point of views. Share what's working, any good articles, podcasts, let me know in the comments below. Beijos.